Good morning and welcome to my home. This is the MoonBound Podcast and I am Julia, the spinner and dyer and weaver and knitter behind MoonBound Artisanship. And I would like to welcome all of the returning and all of the new viewers to the show. And we're going to get right into it because I do not have a lot of time to tape. And for some reason, my camera just mysteriously turned off. So I have even less time than I did the first time I did this. So we're going to start out with the Multnomah shawl. And shawls are notoriously bad to show while they're on the needles, but here we are. Multnomah is a free pattern on Ravelry. And I love how this is turning out. The yarn is Glow Beauty from Within's Pan is Back colorway, which is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon, and it is a 4-ply yarn. It's gorgeous and wonderful. The only complaint I have, and this is not really a good complaint, is this doesn't seem to be getting any smaller. Okay, I know it's really getting smaller, but I knit on this. I alternated all day yesterday, crafts and housework, and both are better for it. But this is, I swear, it's the same size as it was when I started yesterday. It's probably not really, but, and it's not a terrible complaint. I mean, the shawl's going to be as big as the ball of yarn, so I'm trying not to hit the table because I did notice last time that I bumped the table several times. The project is living right here in this lovely yarn bowl that my mother-in-law made for me. She didn't know it was going to be a yarn bowl. I wasn't even certain. But most things that hang around with me long enough end up holding yarn. We just have black tea today. This shawl, which we're going to refer to as my French shawl, maybe I'll have one of my friends who speaks French try to coach me on the pronunciation of how to say the name of this shawl. I find this quick but tedious. So it's a knit row, a purl row, and then this weird knit row that produces this larger stitch, and then another knit row to recover. And those last two rows, you have to be very careful the whole time of your tension. Not that you shouldn't be careful of your tension normally, but I think we get into a rhythm of how we hold our tension. And in order to get it to lay, let's see if I can make my hands do this. In order to get it to lay nice like it is up here, instead of how it's laying down here, you have to be really kind of aggressive with holding the loops as you're forming them when you do that knit recovery row, if that makes any sense. And because otherwise it looks a little wonky, it's still going to need to be blocked really, really hard. I do like how it looks. Well, I like how I assume it's going to look when it's blocked. And I think it's a good use for the yarn. I just don't really find myself super inspired to work on it. I don't know. So we still have quite a large ball of that, which will produce a lovely shawl. And it is living in this yarn bowl, which my mother-in-law did know was going to be a yarn bowl when she made it for me. I'm really lucky to have all of these super crafty people around me who are willing to make me things or have me try out their prototypes. Or, you know, allow me to direct them toward the concept of making a different prototype. I told you last time that I was going to immediately start casting on a new sock, new pairs of socks, and that I wanted to do something, excuse me, do something a little different. Try out a different construction method. These are hopelessly tangled because they were in my purse when I set my purse down in a puddle. So they had to be washed on the needles. This is the second pair of socks in a row that I've had to wash on the needles, which is kind of frustrating. But in any event, these super pointy toes actually do fit. I tried them on because it looked so strange. That's a 10. I think next time I would start with a few more stitches, but it does fit. The yarn was a sock blank that we dyed up as a guild. It is the leftovers from actually the pair of socks I'm wearing. It is 75-25 Corriedale nylon. It is not superwash. And the bottom, it doesn't really felt, but it kind of starts to behave like it might be, like it might eventually felt. So I'm washing my socks and wearing my socks and washing quite often. And all of my socks, whether they are the Patton's Croy, this yarn, or the Knit Picks, are holding up really, really well to what I consider to be fairly abusive treatment. So that's good. These are, what is the pattern called? Toe Up Forethought socks. And it is really much more of a recipe than a pattern, giving math and measurements. And actually, I think that I have gone one repeat too wide on these, so I'm going to back them down in 3 rows, I think 3 rows, in order to just narrow them up a little bit. But no apparent harm done from the soaking in the puddle or the having to hand wash them on the needles. These are on US size 1 Addy Sock Rackets, and I have that much left. It calls itself a forethought heel, but it's basically an afterthought heel with a little bit more thought, hence forethought. Very clever. So I am going to look for a mini to do the heels in, so that I can just, run myself out, and I might do heels and cuffs then in that. And I'm thinking that I'm going to be looking for a teal, but maybe a sky, because some of these blues are much lighter. And that's living in a project bag, so it can go with me places. So that really covers all of the knitting onto the crochet. So 2 years ago, I started one of those weather blankets where each stripe is a different temperature based on the high temperature of that day. And then I got distracted and got way behind and stopped. And then last year I picked it up again for a while. And then in March I got distracted and got way behind and stopped. Well, it just so happened that I was dumping the basket that I held all of the different colors out so that I could use it for holding my spinning fiber and have that be nice and pretty in my living room, when it suddenly occurred to me to count the rows and see how close I was. And I was only about 10 days behind, maybe not even 10 days behind. And so I decided to pick it back up and spent part of Sunday and part of Monday catching myself back up. And while I do have yesterday's row yet to go, I am caught back up. So this is a 3-year weather blanket so far. And it is, I'll spread it across the table afterwards and insert a picture here. But it is really a nice, comfortable length for being a lap blanket. So what I'm thinking is that if 3 years makes a good lap blanket, or 3 months makes a good lap blanket, then 6 months is going to make a good regular blanket, and a year is going to be way too long. So what I will probably do is get to the halfway point of the year and cast it on again. Of course, what's actually probably more likely to happen is that I'm going to set it aside again and forget about it for a while. That's how it's worked. I really love it. It's soft, despite the fact that it's very simple acrylic. It's very soft and it's very warm and it's very cozy, and I'm enjoying working on it. I just already have this trend of setting it down, so I'm not counting on me not setting it down again. So there's that. I would like to keep going. We'll see. Maybe we'll make 4 blankets. Who knows? So one of the things that's happening, because it's spanning a bunch of years, let me pull this back over here, is that this purple, when I went back to the store to get it more purple, it is no longer a match. And I don't think that that matters for the purposes of this blanket. But I don't want it to be halfway across a row. So when I got to the next purple, the next row I needed purple for, there's quite a span there. Rather than use the little bowl I had left that would not have done a full row, I used the new color, which means that because that wasn't the only color that that's happening to, this is going to generate a lot of little balls of yarn that are not going to be super usable for this project. And at the same time, my mother and I usually work together on a quilt when someone in the family gets married. And the last couple we haven't done, just because of health issues for both of us. And we want to kind of play catch up on that and get some stuff done. And so Mom was like, oh, we need to make sure we do a quilt for so-and-so. And I said, well, yeah, we could do that. That would be fine. We could do that. And then this week I was thinking, I'm really not getting up and down the stairs very well. I can do it. But a quilt is a lot of work all at once, especially working to a deadline. And we are. I don't know how many times I can do that. So I thought, and while my mom does beautiful hand sewing, she doesn't really do a lot of machine sewing. And so usually what would happen is she'd come over and we'd just go great guns for a day, maybe 2 days if she spent the night, and just bang it out. But I don't have that in me, and I don't think she has it in her right now either. So I thought, well, what about an Afghan? Because I can sit in my chair in my living room with my feet propped up and work on an Afghan. So we are looking at different, you've lost the train of this story, haven't you? We are looking at different Afghan patterns that we could do in pieces, motifs, that sort of thing, so that she could do some and I could do some, and if my sister wants to do some, she can do some, and then put them together. So we kind of narrowed it down to 2 that we really liked yesterday. I didn't write down their names, so I'm not going to put them on the screen. So last night, because I wanted to see how big this square was, because it looked quite small, I decided to take one of those little balls that was left over from the weather blanket and just sample it out. And I love it. And I really love the look of this blanket. This is awful small though. I mean, for doing a big blanket, for doing like a memory blanket, for doing a scrappy blanket, no, this is perfect. And I love it. And I'm not going to rip this out, cut my threads and everything. But I think I'm now leaning more toward the other one, which produces much bigger motifs, and it's a hexagon. I just think it'll get done faster and there'll be less seaming to do. And this is a sewn seam, whereas that one is a crocheted seam, and crochet seams just go much faster, I think. So I'm starting a new project with all my leftover bits and bobs of worsted weight only, so that I get the same size squares, not running into the same problem I had with the flower blanket. And I think I'm going to make up a bunch of these and then determine how big of a blanket I want it to be so that I know how many squares. But right now I'm just gonna make squares and tuck them into a bin or something. But it's a whole bunch of these squares, and then you go around with those colors or similar-ish colors, just to give it like a stripe to coordinate it all in, and I really think it looked nice. So there's that project, which is not going to see a lot of progress. I think I probably have enough to do 6 or 7 squares right now. One of the things my mother asked me to do is a couple of years ago now, when we were at Sheep and Wool, that would be, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, we spent a lot of time looking for a fiber that wasn't wool to spin up for my sister. And I would spin it up, and then she would make it into something. So I did my part. These are bamboo and faux cashmere, and I think this is charcoaled bamboo with more of the cashmere, more of the faux cashmere. I didn't like spinning this one. I remember that this stuff, I find it to kind of squeak when you spin it. It's beautiful. It's super shiny. It's soft. I love the way it looks. I didn't really enjoy spinning it. And the faux cashmere stuff is super fly away and gets in your nose. But my mother then tucked this away and forgot what project she was going to work on it, make out of it for my sister. So I am going to skein it for her again and find out, because I wasn't taking super great notes then, find out how much yarn there is here. Back to measuring. And then help her find a pattern. And then she can work on that. Or we did joke that she could give it as a kit to my sister. So there's that, and something that's gonna, I'm really quite pleased with how these turned out. The twist angle is just really pleasing to me. So it's very heavy though. So something with lots of holes, I think. The other project that's mulling about in my head is I want to participate, and I'm kind of late on the bandwagon. I want to participate in the what is she calling it? Box of mittens? The Mitten Along? I think she's calling it the Mitten Along Cal, over at Skein-Deer Knits. And a good chunk of the red and the white left, all in one piece, although I have little pieces as well. I also have the rest of this bag, which is all of the bobbins from the Pikachu sweater. So I have 6 little balls of black, and 6 little balls of yellow, and 6 little balls of white, and 6 little balls of red and pink. And I also have 6 balls, and this isn't the same yarn. All of the others is the same yarn, but this is the Jungenswolle Sport. Wait. No. It's awful light for a sport weight. Wool that I made the Pikachu sweater. This was the main color of the sweater. So I'm thinking that I should be able to get some nice color work mittens with lots of tails tucking out of this yarn. And I know that I can go back to the store that I got this at and get more, certainly more. I'm certain that the white and the black would match. And I'd have to see if the others would match. It does give lots, so, but we can see. So I'm on the lookout for some color work mittens that I can do with this array of little itty bitty bits, because I'd prefer to make them into something than to turn them back into yarn first. So I think that's about where I'm at. I am almost finished with one bobbin full of the potluck wool. As I said in the vlog, it is turning out surprisingly well. It is, however, going to take a really, really long time. The basket that held this blanket now holds 10 out of my nearly 30 ounces of this wool. And I think that I'm going to spin up all 10 of those ounces and then work on something else for a while. Because it is probably going to be a lace weight 2-ply, so it's really, really thin right now, and that just takes a long time to spin. I did manage to get 3 separate 20-ish minute sessions spinning yesterday, so that's good. Probably at that rate 2 or 3 more days until my bobbin's full, and given that it's a holiday weekend, I'm not going to be working at that rate because there's family to hang out with. So knitting is a much better project to take with for that. I did also start a spindle spin. Hold on while I go get it. Sorry about that slight lack of preparedness. So here is my spindle spin. This is brown sheep wool, kettle dyed. And I have probably about 3 ounces of this spindle. I bought several years ago, sometime after 2003. It says the year it was made down here. I don't know who the artist is, but it is marked FDFA. And it is a 61.5 gram weighted spindle. But I think it's really pretty. And it spins very well. I thought that it would be very, very wobbly and was basically buying it for the pretties. But it actually spins quite well. Because I didn't really give that much of a twist. And it just keeps on going. So, haven't spent a ton of time on this, but I really like how it is working out. I like this colorway. And this is my yarn distaff. And if you have not worked with a wrist distaff and you spindle spin, give it a try. It really does do a good job of making everything just work a little bit smoother. Just yarn storage, it holds it out of your way. And it's just a little cooler on the palm. I find that I don't get all sweaty and warm, and it doesn't catch in the wind as much. The whole end of the distaff does catch a little bit, but it's not like some demonstration situations where I literally, it's been almost impossible to spin because the trailing edge of my roving is going away, and then the spindle is spinning out and catching that. And so this does solve that problem, and it manages your wool for you very nicely, and I really, really like it. It's also, this yarn was made out of a picture bat from a trip that my eldest son and I took out to California. I think it'll be 3 years this spring break. And so it was just a picture of our vacation that I turned into a bat, that I turned into yarn, that now I wear all the time. So it has some memories there, and I really like it. So I have shown you all the things. At least I think I have. The method of working for 15 to 20 minutes and then changing what you're doing actually works really well for me. It does mean I end up with lots of projects though. So if you haven't tried working that way, give it a try. See what you think. I like it. I will talk to you later. I hope you have a lovely week. Bye.